A very good day to one and all. I welcome you all for this induction session of the August 2020 cohort group. So, we have around 12 teams, 11 to 12 teams who will be, you know, starting their program in from this cohort for the next 1 year. They'll be associated with Nirman. So now, for the teams to know more about Nirman, I would request Professor Satyanarayanan Seshadri, who is the faculty advisor of Nirman, to say a few words on the same.
Uh, Thank you, Nandini. I take my pleasure in welcoming you all to this cohort. This, I think, the eighth cohort of Nirman batches, and till now we would have probably reached over 100 teams. And now is actually a very exciting time to be part of Nirman. Not just in terms of the number of teams and the number of people looking at entrepreneurship. As an organization itself, Nirman is maturing by way of its collaboration, partnership with other entities, exposure to next level opportunities via funding and fundraising. So you would all be happy to note that recently one of our teams from one of the previous cohorts was selected as an incubated company at the Y Combinator, which is one of those prestigious ones that had incubated companies like Dropbox and Airbnb and other things. So we are with the view to strengthen our ecosystem more and be of more support and service to all of you in this particular entrepreneurship journey. We've been tying up with entities like Amazon, Google, and whatsoever it takes for us to be successfully coming out of the journey that we are undertaking. So what then it really means is that I urge each one of you and request each one of you to utilize the opportunities available to the best possible extent. The opportunities are by way of course, the funding and the workspace. Right now, it's all virtual, but eventually, I hope that we will be back on campus and there is a new innovation center and office that's coming up. But more so in terms of the courses that are being offered, be it ID 5101 or 5102 or 5200, and all the mentorship opportunities. So, one of the most successful outcome an entrepreneur can have is by incorporating the learning from other people who've been there, done that. So to enable that, we have two levels and sets of people who are willing to dedicate their experience, time, and effort towards supporting you all in this program. One is the recent set of people who had been through the same shoes where you are. If they've been a student entrepreneur, now they become an individual and successful entrepreneur, and some of them have gone on to raise funds and actually garner good valuation in the market. They have known what it takes to be a student entrepreneur, and now they have known what it takes to be an entrepreneur out in the real world without the safety of the campus like IITM provides to you. The second set of mentors, I cannot emphasize this even more, are those alumni and people from the institute who's gone outside, made their mark in the industry or entrepreneurship or whichever fields they were in, and has come back to give it back to the community. And they are not to be taken very lightly because people outside, if you go to, say, a place like CIIE, which is IIM Ahmedabad, you actually pay for the mentorship. And the way you pay is they take a fairly good amount of stake in your company. And this is actually offered completely free of cost here. And I think that is one of the most valuable thing. And the most successful companies I have seen come out of Nirman are those that have leveraged this to the fullest extent. They have never left their mentors alone. The mentors don't mind it. And I think we have a great mentor here in Jayapriya who has been mentoring many educational tech related startups, and they've gone on outside to do well. And she herself runs a couple of startups. So, and we have Professor Bobby George here, who, I mean, albeit his very quiet demeanor, is quite accomplished both in the tech world and also has a company himself in the research path. So I think given the talent and expertise available, and you have a very active student team, so I would really request each one of you to use this platform available to the best possible extent, because as we all say, you can only be shown the water, you have to drink it. and now we have given you the water in a bottle with a straw in it. I think it's your duty and job to make the best use of it. And with that, I don't want to take much more time, and I really welcome you all to this online cohort meeting. Normally, we would have done that in a ICSR hall with samosas and teas, but unfortunately, I think you have to have your own samosas and teas. But nevertheless, the spirit is the same. Welcome you all, and I really look forward to working with each one of the teams and be of service to whatever may be the requirements that you have to the best possible extent that we can do. So, welcome all, and good luck with your journey.
Thank you, sir. So we will start with all the team representatives introducing themselves and their teams. So we will start with Shashwat from SignTalk. So before I go with that, I'd like to just mention that with us, we have 12 teams this cohort, 10 of whom have joined this August, while 2 of whom have joined in May. The 2 who joined in May are actually recently graduated alumni who have decided to take at least a year to try out entrepreneurship.
Perfect. So I would like to add here before the teams begin, as I kept saying, we are adding newer and newer features to Nirman. And the recent feature that has been added is something called as a founder in residence. And it is precisely for people who would stay back and try out, ones who has shown some success in their initial journey through Nirman and who wants to stay back and continue it and close it out. We have this program which provides some kind of a stipend. And the other thing before I can we can start with the teams is I just noticed that we have Mr. Mohan Narayan with us in the audience, and he has been an anchor, mentor, and a very strong support for these teams. And I would like to request Mr. Mohan to maybe share a few words before we can start with the team introductions. Mr. Mohan.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Satya. Great to be here. Sorry, I was a couple of minutes late. And I'm logging in from my mobile phone, so a little difficult to get my video on. Apologies for that. But great job, guys. Thanks that you were able to put this together. And I really look forward to working with that cohort, along with the rest of the members. We represent what is called as IIT Madras Entrepreneurship Forum. And there are a bunch of folks from the industry and entrepreneurial network who are part of this group and who, as Satya said, are willing to give their time free of cost. So make the best use of it. Challenge the mentors. That is my message to you. Don't take anything for granted what they are saying. Mentors would like to be questioned, would like to be challenged, and not that that we as mentors are always right. Most of the time we are wrong. A few times we are right, and many times, to be honest with you, we learn from you rather than you learning from us. So it has been a fantastic journey for us. I think Satya and Nandini have done a fantastic job in getting Nirman off to speed, even though it's been challenging times this year. I personally have been involved with many of those startups. Brilliant work some of them are doing. So I think this will be a perfect, what I would say, a gating thing into the incubation cell. That's the best thing that can happen. Any incubation cell, it can be our own incubation cell, or it can be outside. But this is in that sense a perfect pre-processor kind of thing that happens. So I wish you all the best. Thank you, Satya, for inviting me over here, and Nandini. Wish you all the best, and I look forward to enjoying the rest of the session.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So we'll start with the team introductions. So to start with, we have Shashwat. Shashwat and all the teams following him, I would request you to stick to a timeline of around 3 to 4 minutes in the interest of the time, interest of the session's time. Thank you.
Let me just present my screen.
Shashwat, while your slides are coming up, maybe you can start with your team's introduction. Yeah.
Sure. Are my slides visible now?
Yes.
Yeah. So, hi everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Shashwat. I'm a recent graduate from the 2020 batch. I've been working on SignTalk for the last few months. And in essence, we are in this very niche space of assistive technology where we're on a mission to connect the deaf and the hearing world. And the first initiative that we are pursuing to achieve this mission of ours is to enhance access to the Indian Sign Language. Now, what most people don't know is that sign language is not universal. It is country or region specific. And in India, we have the Indian Sign Language, which is a language that needs support, maturity, and development in the coming years. So this is what the team looks like today. 3 out of the 4 members of the founding team are from IIT Madras, and a couple of us have now have sign language proficiency, and we deal with the product side of things. One of our founding members is proficient in software development, and the last founder handles operations. So the two problems that we've sort of identified when it comes to this mission of ours is that one, there's a dire lack of engaging online resources for learning the Indian Sign Language. And secondly, because the space is so fragmented and not a lot of awareness is around this topic, we realize that there's a greater need for inclusion and disability sensitization at workplaces and schools in our country. So coming to what the product looks like today, we are building a gamified language learning platform, and we divide every topic or core topics of the language into modular bite-sized topics. And we try to ensure that we cover an end-to-end curriculum and provide a guided learning journey for people who have no background in sign language at all. We incorporate a lot of interesting gamification principles such as visual storytelling or rewards and streak counters and stuff like that to make learning outcomes better and retention rates higher. So we use visual inputs where our content is made by deaf Indian Sign Language experts with a strong focus on user experience and iterative learning. And then we have support features that actually guide users on how to perform a particular sign for a particular gesture in a certain topic. So the kind of traction that we've had, we're iterating on this product right now. It's a web application which is optimized for mobile, tablet, and laptop. Has been fairly decent. We have around 200 plus users today, and they come from a plethora of demographics such as sign language teachers or speech language pathologists. We've also had traction from corporate employees with partial or complete hearing loss. And then there are surprisingly some enthusiastic learners across age groups, from school going to middle age demographics. So the kind of stakeholders that we've identified are people who face communication and learning challenges, which are your deaf children, your deaf schools, your hearing individuals with deaf relatives, etc. And then organizations who we can tie up with that can use this product as a diversity and inclusion initiative. That would be your corporates, government offices, and hearing schools. So the idea that we want to promote is that you never know whose day you could make by knowing basic sign language, because you might just come across a deaf person at a CCD or in a store or at the railway station, etc. Coming to the number of people, estimations who face communication learning challenges today, there are like 60 plus million people in India who are deaf, and there are 2,500 plus deaf/special schools in our country. And then a bit more information on what we meant by diversity and inclusion deep dive. So we want to empower employees or students to think empathetically about minority groups and develop them holistically. And we can do this by conducting cross-team or cross-class competitions, attach a branding or merchandise component on it to incentivize the people of that organization. We can conduct sensitization workshops with our partner NGOs, and holistically just develop them to become better citizens of India by promoting a more inclusive society. So at this point in time, in the interest of time, this is where I would like to end the presentation, and I hope I've been able to give you a rough idea on what we've been doing till now and what we are planning to do in the coming days. Are there any questions?
No, I think thank you, Shashwat. It's a wonderful project and service that you are providing. I really look forward to seeing the outcomes and how we can help you further.
Great, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Shashwat. After him, I would like to call Nihal from Frinco. Nihal, if you could take it forward.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'll just show my screen once. Yeah, so I'm Rehan Locha. I'm a founder of Frinco, and I'm in my fifth year civil engineering. Yeah, so I'll just start over this. Hello. Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, Nihal, you are
Yes,
audible.
Nihal.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so in this, so we have a plan to build a platform for all these three, for freelancing, internships, and competition. So as you all see, we have a lot of platforms out there to learn stuff. So we have Udemy, an academy, and all those stuff. But there are very few platforms where you actually can practice all these skills, and you can convert your knowledge into a skill. So we thought, let's build a platform, and we and after some uh, analysis, we found that freelancing, internships, and competitions are the three most valued things for any student. So we plan to target all these three. If we see like the problems with all the platforms out there currently, first of all, there's no platform out there for all these three. We have separate platforms, and students actually have to go on all of them separately. Also, the ease of use is very important, and in Franco, that is our first step. We just wanted to build something very simple to use, and also for the companies out there, they have to go on separate platforms. So for this, the solution was a simple app and a website, such that it has all these three segments into it, and to make the whole process is simple. We have this swipe thing. So you just swipe through all your job profiles, and you apply on them. So it's just left, right, and apply. Also for the companies, it is a very simple platform to hire either freelancer for some kind of a short project, or interns, or to host a competition. So when we analyze the market size, so we have in India, we have a huge collection of UG and PG students, and we aspire to have a some share of it. So about our product, actually, we have launched this Android app. It is on Play Store. We have around 100 plus downloads over it. The app is somewhat like this. So we have this swipe thing and apply, and we have a freelance option, internships, and compete into that. Uh, yeah. So if we see like are all the competitions out there, we target the maximum things. So even for the companies or for the users, we have all the relevant options to either work or to hire. And also it is very affordable since we you use the ad based thing. So no one actually has to pay for it. Yeah. So it's me and the app is yeah. Yeah, so I guess I'm done.
Thanks a lot, Nihal.
Yeah.
We'll move on to the next team if no one has a question. So the next team is researcher from is a researcher, and Giridhar from researcher is over here to take it forward. Giridhar?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I'm Giridhar from Researcher. I'm joined by my fellow tech lead, Aditya. Our team lead today, Rahul Humayun, is unfortunately not present with us, so I will be taking this forward. I will just share my. So we're Researcher, and we're just a platform aiming to bring collaborations within the college ecosystem. Right. So we sat down and we thought, what makes the college experience so invaluable? And, we realized that meeting these professors and meeting students of similar like-mindedness can bring about collaborations that can really change, the way you move forward in life, right? It can be a research project or it could even be a startup. And finding the right co-founders or finding the right professor today can be quite challenging, right? Today, if I want to start a startup, or if I want to find a bunch of co-founders who I want to build a startup with, um, the way I source a collaborator today, or let's take an example of a professor and a student, right? A student wanting a research internship under a professor would cold email that professor, cold email about 10 professors, or reach out to them personally through LinkedIn, or go to their cabins and ask for opportunities or such. And this is actually very ineffective today. And similarly, if you think about it from the perspective of a professor, considering someone who's not from a top tier institute like an IIT, or from a second tier institute, sourcing students is not easy for a professor like that interested in doing some research. So he would put up his opportunities on LinkedIn or his personal and college websites, and startups would put up their opportunities on internship websites. And again, what we realized is the problem with this is that it gets a little too cluttered. Like putting it up on LinkedIn, we see that LinkedIn gets so cluttered today. You can get hundreds of interested comments, or hundreds of DMs today, and it's not an entirely efficient process. Right. So we came up with an online platform that simplifies this. We are initially specifically inclined towards the university audience, that is the professors and the students. Um, and let's take a simple example of like how I mentioned, between a professor and a student. The professor can easily compare between applicants and shortlist the applicants through a standardized profile that we have created, and a bunch of filtering and visibility options as well that we have given the professor, so that he doesn't have to go through hundreds of applicants, but he can bring that down to probably 10 applicants by selecting probably that he wants people only from an IIT, or probably wants only people with a certain CGPA requirement. And similarly, he's not bogged down by hundreds of messages, because there is a simple SOP that the student submits, and only if he likes that SOP, he converts that into a full-blown messaging service, right? And he also mentions a set of tags with the project that helps shortlist the right candidates, and our algorithm brings down that list further and shows him the right set of candidates that he would prefer. So so this is our first product that we came up with that is connecting both the professors and the students. Um, so for the professors, the three main features are to list the project, to filter, and to curate. And for the students, it is to search, compare, and decide. So we've set a certain limit on the number of applications that the student can make, so that he doesn't make countless applications, and the professor is again we come down to the same problem. So here is a small demo of, I mean, small set of screenshots of how the professor's view looks like. The first screenshot is of all the projects that he has uploaded on the platform. The one on the right shows the particular applications that he has for a particular project that he's uploaded. For example, data adaptation for S2S translation. He can look at all the applicants. He can click on the profile of a particular student and view his profile. He can also look at the SOP, and he can accept or reject that particular candidate. The third screenshot here is one that shows the details that the professor has to upload to list a project on the platform. And the last one is when you click the accept button, you can send him one particular message with a certain set of contact details, which when he accepts it converts into a fully blown messaging service, so that there is no cluttering anymore. From the student's point of view, the student creates a standardized profile. So we have a CV flow, which he has to enter at the start of at the creation of his account, where he enters his work experience, his projects, his education in a standardized form, so that the professor can easily view and compare between candidates. And on the right, we see the homepage of the student, where he sees the different projects, and each project has a set of details, as you can see below, the start, the end date, the duration, the location, and such. So we actually ran a demo at Manipal Institute of Technology, and here are some of our results. We got around 71 students who signed up, 14 projects that 12 professors put up, and all 14 of them got matches. And there were 61 applications that were submitted, and all the professors were satisfied, and all of them had received applicants and are currently in the process of the internship at the moment as we speak. So our vision is to build a collaborative ecosystem within and across colleges, and it is to onboard about 20% of the top 100 engineering and medical colleges in India. And we hope that Nirman can help us get to that goal. So, yeah, thank you.
So thank you, Giridhar. If no one has any question, we'll move on to TrueSide, and Abdul from TrueSide is here to present the project.
Hi, good evening.
Request, being an introduction, going too deep into the product is quite unnecessary. Yeah.
I just want to make this initial check. So am I visible? Am I audible? Hello? Hello?
Yes, Abdul, we can hear you.
Yeah. So TrueSide, I'll just quickly run through what the idea is. TrueSide was a quarantine initiative. So as we were not aware of what exactly, as things were stopping up in the quarantine, we were not sure of what exactly to do. And we came across a lot of misinformation, fake news, fallacies, and a lot of things during this, at least during this past 3, 4, 5, only 6, 7 months ago. So we just joined on a call, and we were just having a normal call with my friends, and that's when the idea of building something like this initiative. And this was started as a basic project where we would like to build a data set for the project of using ML or AI, or basically AI models to find fake news or figure out fake news and misinformation. But later, the kind of traction we got and kind of the response we got from the general public by just using our social media handles were immense. And this is the team we have. Myself, I'm a final year undergraduate from Department of Chemical Engineering, and we have Govind, Jasmine, Rano. All of them are final year undergraduates from the Department of Chemical Engineering. So this is like, I'll just run through the structure. The slides are not reordered accordingly for a 5-minute pitch, I would say. So I'll just quickly take through the problem. The basic problem was spread of misinformation. The main problems were lack of awareness, lack of time, lack of resource, and lack of clarity. So we want to counter all these things. I'm just taking up to the moving on the story part. And the approach we formed was basically to fight misinformation. We thought we'll build a database for ourselves to find fake news. And the database, instead of, on the process of building database, we thought, okay, instead of just building a database which was lacking to build develop a model, we thought, okay, let's give it as a service. Let's do manual fact checking with what all the industries in the available industry, and we'll just try to put up a website and a mobile app to do that. But the kind of response we received, let's say in the first 2 months or so, just promoting to our social media handles and personal groups, we were getting kind of what to say. We have kind of currently we have around 5,000 followers, including combined to Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and we are having around 500 plus downloads in Play Store. And the thing is, we are hitting around 50 to 100 viewership every day. I mean, it used to be now for the past 1 month we are not being operational because of academic constraint, and we have to revamp our service because we started with an Amazon free trial service for the website portal, but it's getting crashing out big. So this is a service we are providing currently. So in confusion, a photo we are click away to get them verified, and we are trying to build a AI powered framework for the same to get the fact check. And we are running as we know that awareness was something we are lacking. We are running few campaigns, video campaigns. So basically, we started with Think Before You Share campaign. It ran for 3 episodes. Feeling Facts it ran for 3 episodes. And during COVID, we had the Stay Informed and COVID update status and daily roundup of every basic fake news for the day as such. And for the interactive games, we are trying to make like live video trivia game. This is still in the process, and spot the fake element and community tab. These are something which up for the link. And the main and we are trying to get it on the service. Currently, we are giving the service for only the manual fact checkup, and that's how we are going about it. So this is the entire workflow. I'm not sure whether it's explanatory in this given duration. So basically, we are having the current manual fact checkup. This is how it works, and we are trying to get the automated fact checkup done as soon as possible. So we are basically trying to automate the process. And these are key values. We are making it simple. Just 200 words is what we are trying to, and we are trying to make it as authentic as possible. So that's something we are trying to work on of the different models, the different availability of that, and we are trying to make it like a two-layer pyramid. So basically, it's very clear. We instead of putting too much, instead of putting too much information, we make it fake and true side and just present with the clarity. So this is the key market analysis we had. So these are the competitors we have: Alt News, Press Investigation Bureau, Boom, and then we have the True Side. So these are the parameters which they were lacking, and yeah, of course, all of them were lacking the automation part, and few of them were lacking in some other thing. Talking about the second one is the Press Investigation Bureau, PIB fact checkers initiative by government. It only covers the news from the government side, which is the government orders and all those things. If it's a fake one, they'll just keep it. That's the only part. These are the major competitors, and just few analysis and impact. What is the amount of duration? How does the impact of fake news in the present system or present Indian system? So I'll skip this part considering the interest of time. Yeah, these are just some survey analysis, and these are reach. We are having 500 plus downloads on Play Store, 2,500 followers on Instagram, 1,200 on LinkedIn, and 800 plus on Facebook. And combined with we have around 5,000 plus. So we are rated 4.8 on Play Store based on 45 plus reviews, and we are trying to add few features like inching into App Store. App Store processes, and the app is we are working on the app, and we are trying to use the Instagram was the main platform. The social media and also the main platform which we were promoting our video series. So we are trying to add it to like few other things like Google News. We have registered. We have got it published. We are in the final part of verification process, and Spotify and iTunes are something which we are trying to extend as such for the podcasting. So these are few business models like what we are trying to have subscription models and all those things. So instead of time, I'll just skip that. Engagement models as we had discussed in the previous section, like game polls, subscriptions, video series, and all those things. Yeah, so that's pretty much about True Side in less than 5 minutes. I mean, I have to tell you.
Thanks a lot, Abdul. If anyone has any comments or questions.
No, I think that's wonderful, Abdul. I think quite an interesting website and approach. I really look forward to hearing from you more as we go along.
Sure. So thank you. The next team is Crisscross Soul, and Anak from the team is here to represent them.
Yes, Deepak. Is my screen visible?
Yeah,
Not
you're
yet.
also you were visible. Now your screen is visible.
Now,
Okay, sure. So, hello, my name is Anak Soman. I'm a fifth and final year dual degree student in the Department of Mechanical Engineering, and my startup is Crisscross Stores. We started out as our starting journey includes the Insti Hospital, since on one of the days my record was missing and I was unable to get a RIB fraction. And following that, in the next Sarang, when friends from Jipmer came, we learned that history sharing or keeping the history records were a major problem. And that happened. It stayed as a problem because of the fact that we could not, put our trust in a central authority. That's the idea of a blockchain-based centralized EMR system was born, which goes across hospitals. That's what Crisscross aims to do in the beginning, and we plan to pioneer the beginning of smart hospitals. So our advisory board consists of 6 renowned personalities, consultants, and Sushma Rajagopal ma'am is the CEO and MD of ITC Infotech and a venture partner in many ventures. And we have doctors as well as T.S. Giridharan sir is a mentor from GDC. Now our main team consists of me, myself, and Mithun KS. He's a final year dual degree student in physics, as well as Moksh, who's also a final year dual degree student, and Irfan, who's a tech lead. 3 of us are from mechanical engineering, and Moksh is from metallurgy. Now, when you actually get into the process of defining how the problems scale and scope, we get to know that medical mistakes, as I told, are the third leading cause of death in the world. So history is of utmost importance, and history needs to be transparent, shared, and should be easily communicable. Then there is the fact that insurance fraud is committed in the name of history, and that amounts to around 40 billion per year. A lot of diseases, such as even coronavirus pandemic, could be solved better if there was data of certain ethnic groups and certain population groups. So that's another thing altogether that data on health systems can help us provide. Next, centralization, though, if at all that was happening, would increase the security risk footprint, because trust in a single authority can't always be mandated. If at all a politician in India has a certain disease, that might be potentially sensitive information for a company in US, such as Amazon or so on. And medical information is represented wrongly in a court of law. These all pose problems, and this is why a centralized EMR system could not come into place. And therefore, we provide the same thing, but using blockchain to actually let it happen. So as you can see, we have used a lot of adjectives for it, and it's a means to open the door for the healthcare industry to enter its next revolutionary stage. Because data age is the next thing that is coming up, and if at all data needs to be used, health data in particular needs to be used, sensitive trust-based sharing mechanism is necessary, and that's what blockchain provides. Our target market includes healthcare centers, insurance agents, disease research institutes, patients, and big pharma. And as I told itself, from the feedback we received of these people, is that the centralization of data is necessary, it is inevitable, and all stakeholders will benefit from it. Now, so this is the kind of device that we were actually thinking of, a tablet on the patient end and the tablet on the doctor end, which works together and helps in history sharing. Now, these are some definitions and some looks into the market sizing and everything that we have done. If you look closer, we actually have a detailed market analysis done, which I'm not going to go through right now, but our competition analysis, market profile, and everything is actually done. We have a ton of competitors from secondary, tertiary, primary, etc. that we're looking at. But our primary competitor is would just be one company, which is MedBlock. And our indirect competitors mainly would be Avasta. There are barriers to the entry of this, obviously, because data sharing is sensitive even when it comes to hospitals. So that is a hurdle that we needed to cross. And we were planning on a 3-tier payment system with an upfront cost for installation of tablets, a licensing cost, as well as a cost based on patient footfall slab. We had multiple strategies through which we thought we would incorporate the same. So as I said, what we started with was a blockchain-based EMR and HIS system and a system of history sharing. But now, the idea looked promising in the health industry, but there was a problem, and this is where we changed. The thing is that we initially had too many customer segments. There were in total 93 customer segments that we planned to adopt our system, and that's by far too much. So during our customer discovery interviews, we were able to do 122 plus interviews, and the whole statistics haven't been updated here. But that's when we realized that history sharing is actually an issue with respect to hospitals, because hospitals are ready to share history, but they have certain conditions that the other customer segment should follow. These other customer segments are also ready, but they have some other conditions that another customer segment should follow. So this is a loop, and it keeps on going and brings in a very complicated architecture. So, but we found potential for one of our features, which is an AI-based differential diagnosis system, because around 30% to 50% of doctors' time goes in diagnosis. These are the questions which we framed to ask the customer interviews, and we got this from GDC's Inspire program, which helped us a lot. We met more than all these people, but this is the last statistic we had when from GDC when we finished just 50 interviews. These are the data we collected and averaged together. I'm not going in detailed into that. So the new understanding that we found out was that doctors have an issue, and doctors' time is of utmost importance. If we can actually short circuit that time, we'll be solving multiple problems. This is a detailed architecture and a flowchart with data and evidence on why this problem would solve a lot of issues. And so the new problem scale and scope. This is one slide I'm going to stress upon. So the thing is, if at all doctors get more appointments, they can go through more than they can go through in a day, they put it off for the next day. So if 10 patients are allotted appointments for the next day, only 2 show up, resulting in a loss of 8 patients, and that's around 2,400 rupees in loss. And free time of doctors is very much challenged, and this leads to residual stress. Consultations till 6 p.m. easily get extended till 7:30 to 8. Attender outside has a lot of free time generally. Patients would prefer if the consultation time is reduced. And locality-based diseases often require a certain test itself, which the doctors provide, tell them to do. And if the patients could already know about that, they wouldn't need to wait till that time to go forward with it. Then some patients leave due to time constraints. This results in additional loss on the part of the doctor, and sometimes the patient's profile cannot be communicated in full accuracy. What we provide though is actually a system, AI-based system, which creates a model for each and every patient, and from the patient, this acts as a chatbot which basically talks to them, runs them through the questions that the doctor would ask them, and the result is shown to the doctors, because we discovered 40% of the time is actually spent in diagnosis, and this is the part that could be short circuited. Along with that, predictive diagnosis will be given, but that's up to the doctor whether to follow or not, and this reduces the time by a lot. So this is how our customer segments changed from 93 to just 2, and our value propositions changed as well. When we sized the sub-market, when we just went through a small sizing of the market, we were able to see that from using a bottom-up approach and a preliminary analysis, we were able to get to this figure, 263,64730 USD dollars, as a potential size of one part of the market. And the fact is, the size is even more. Now, what next? We'll be following 2 parallel processes. The first process will be to conduct more customer discovery interviews to get more analysis of these segments, then fill up the rest of the business model canvas with revenue streams, key resources, and so on and so forth. Sizing the market better is another thing, and then creating a business plan to target it. Now, along with that, a POC building of AI-based differential diagnosis system is going on. In fact, the POC of the blockchain-based EMR system is completed. So now we are working on an authentication layer of it, because that itself is a very focused topic to work on. So after this, the crux is very simple. Blockchain-based AMR was a brilliant idea. There were hurdles with data sharing. Main hurdle, I told you, some customer segments had conditions for the other customer segments, and it went on. Authority over data was controlled by hospitals, which is why data sharing couldn't happen. Feature for us, AI-based differential diagnosis system was well received, and the customer discovery expert gave evidence of its traceability and potential. Refocused and made this a primary product, with EMR could now being an optional add-on, which could be the main product later on. Now, if this system was implemented, there is another thing. Although with the model being available for each patient, we would have access over the authority over the data interchange. This provides an insight-based entry into the collective EMR system. So, as I said, the AI-based differential diagnosis system is now a primary startup goal, following which we refocus onto a blockchain-based EMR system. Next, this is our product introduction timeline. The step 1 is more or less over. Hospital tie-ups. We have a few hospitals we are in discussions with, and AI-based differential diagnosis.
Anag, if you can wrap up quickly, I think.
There's just one more slide. There's just one more slide. So we are yet to be incorporated. We'll be incorporated within 15 days. We are also part of HCIC's Inspire program, and the 3 months we are actually going forward with it. And we plan to get incubated soon over there, and we hope that Nirman can help us with all the things that we require in the future. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Anag. The next team which we'll call is T and Tribe, and Arvan from the team will come here to present their to introduce the team. I'll once again iterate that we have a bit of a time constraint.
Yeah, sure. Good evening, everyone. I am Arman, and I have been working on TN Tribe for past few months now. So TN Tribe is basically a one-stop merch shop for creators who want to sell their merchandise online and for the fans who want to buy their merchandise. So coming to recognizing the problem, so we realized that in India, we do not have a platform that supports the local artists of India. When I say artists, they are basically content creators or musicians or dancers or painters and whatnot. So they do not have a platform where they could just go and sell their merchandise. And at the same time, the fans do not have any reliable source from where they could purchase their merchandise. So when it comes to creating an online merchandise store, it requires a lot of investment in terms of building the website and then handling the logistics and delivering and so on. So we thought we wish to create an online shopping experience for all the buyers, and at the same time we wish to redirect the major revenue from the merchandise of the creators to them. So our product is basically a 3-click purchase where we wish to integrate the merch shelf for the artists on the social channels, which could be YouTube or Instagram or anything else. And this click would directly redirect the fans to the online store of that particular artist, and then they could make the purchase as usual. So basically, what we are providing is a kind of shopping mall for all the creators under one umbrella. So looking at the target market and opportunity, so basically the clothing acquires a major section of e-commerce market, and it's supposed to increase in the upcoming years. So this pretty much validates the market, and we have some additional data to validate it with us. Moving forward to the competition, we definitely have some big competitors, mostly international competitors, which are Teespring and Merchbar. They do not sell out products in terms of affordability according to Indian standards. And there are some good competitors, which are the Soul Store and Beavercoof.com. So they particularly provide products at high affordability, but they fail to provide the visibility of the product. So the team basically comprises of me and another colleague from Department of Biotechnology, Ashish. He unfortunately isn't present here today. And we both have been working on this, and we further wish to start building the protocol now. Coming to what our major investments and what our major requirements from Nirman might be, we particularly look mentorship from Nirman, because we wish to have some legal advice on how do we collaborate and reach out to the customers. So that is a pretty much quick introduction about the theme. Thank you so much.
Sorry. Thanks a lot. The next which we someone has to thanks a lot. The next team which we have is Amit from Taggy Weld.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, Amit, you're audible, but there's a bit of a background noise.
Actually, sir, I'm sorry, sir.
Maybe you can
data,
remove
so
your
there are
microphone. Amit, you can remove your microphone, talk, use your computer directly.
Okay, I will do that. Hello, now it is fine, sir?
Amit, maybe you can join in via phone.
Hello. Hello. Is it fine now? Is it fine now?
Yeah, go ahead, Amit.
Yeah. So, is everybody able to see my screen?
Yes, Amit, it's visible.
So, my name is Amit Puri. I have completed recently a PhD from the Department of Metallurgical and Materials Engineering, and our team is Taggy Weld, where we are providing the technical support and solutions for the critical product division and auto sector. So, our team's vision is that to bridge the engineering gap in the automotive sector and critical projects such as defense, R&D, and core engineering by the cutting-edge technologies of AI, big data analytics, IIoT for better product quality and engineering solutions. So we are our aim to provide support is for building automation with the incorporation of AI for productivity enhancement and meet the quality requirements with cost reduction. Then technical support for welding activities along with the code requirements for the automotive sector, critical for its, and then technical support for product development in the area of material and fabrication. So this is our team. I had done, as I said, PhD I have done from the IIT itself, and I have ATS of Industrial Exchange. And my second member is Mr. Abhishek, who is MTech in smart manufacturing. Right now, today unfortunately is not available. So the project what we are working on, I would like to give a glimpse in. So in that three projects we are working parallelly. One is the prototype of building automation with incorporation of artificial intelligence. The status is that the design is made ready, parts, components purchased and manufacturing is in process. Then technology development for fabrication of wheel rims using plasma arc welding. So we have customer in automotive sector, and the prototype test token welding that is in process. Our customer is ready to bear the cost of material, process charges, and all the testing charges. And then product development we are doing for the defense sector, where we have identified the manufacturer in India, because that product is not available in India at present. And in further the roles, responsibilities, and commercial terms finalization is in process. So support we need from Nirmal is on the business strategies and how to make commercial deals with the customer and supplier, like this legal advice, and then guidance on the IP protection. So with this, I would like to close my presentation.
Thanks a lot, Amit. The next team which we would like to call is Praneeth from Galaxy AI.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, just sharing my screen.
Amit, can you mute yourself?
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Pranit here on behalf of Team Galaxy. So at Galaxy, in one line, we're building the future of satellite image acquisition. Here's the brains at work. So our team of 5 members, 5 of us have worked with each other for over 2 years at Avishkar Hyperloop, and we went to SpaceX for the finals of the competition. Post the competition, all of us, we got together and we started realizing that space tech was indeed a sector to be in, the kind of technologies, the kind of innovations that were coming up. So we had our own mentor, Professor Satya Chakravarti, who's been continuing to guide us even at Galaxy. So the problem that we saw was that there's a lot of irrelevant data that is being handled through the process. So when a satellite actually acquires imagery, even though I might be requiring data only for the area of IIT Madras, the area that I get from a satellite imagery covers all places around as well, be it until the airport or Gindi or Nugamak, basically a lot of adjacent localities as well, right? So that's the kind of a size of a satellite frame. So the key problem in that also being that the kind of data that is being handled. So satellites are capable of taking clear pictures, which could be used for analytics later for decision making. That's only 25%, which is basically if it is during the daytime and that it is not covered by clouds, because we see how the images look when the weather is cloudy or if it's during the night time. So just the 25% imagery being meaningful, the market is crossed $75 billion. So that's where we're trying to tap into the other 75% of the market potential, and that the total data volume is poised to increase in the next decade by 50 exabytes, which is like 50 billion gigabytes. So that's where we're trying to come up with an efficient data handling mechanism. And here's our solution for it. We're looking at a dual sensor smart satellite constellation where we acquire relevant data at a very high resolution and perform analytics upon that. So here's our satellite constellation, which is capable of inter-satellite communication, hence a lot more efficient. Looking at one satellite in specific, it's a smart satellite with hybrid sensors and an onboard edge computer. The area that is being mapped, we downlink only the required data from the satellite, not taking irrelevant data. That reduces the cost drastically. And then we're also capable of performing analytics upon the data. So that could then be used directly by the governments, enterprises, and so many other people. We've done some market sizing, and here are some brief, not getting into a lot of figures, but the kind of market that we see, immediate addressable market is growing at 11.2%, reaching a $5+ billion by 2026. Defense taking 60% of the share. So progress till date, over the last 5-6 months, we've streamlined the overall goal. We were targeting a lot of customer segments, just like Anna also mentioned. We went through the GDC program, and we also realized that we were targeting a lot of customer segments. We streamlined our product offering. We performed market research and competitors analysis, and we clearly understood where we were creating a difference. And moving on, last 1.5 months, we performed an iteration of the overall constellation, 30 satellites, giving an overall cost estimate of a few millions as a capital. And we also derived the unit economics and showing that our gross margins were consistently over 80%, which is more or less an ideal business model that we see. So the plans ahead, we're looking at developing a proof of concept of our product, which is actually develop a satellite and then develop a prototype and possibly launch it in the coming years. So key expectations right away is to reach out to relevant domain experts, because getting into a new field is definitely exciting, but we'd like to choose the right way, the best way possible. So reaching out to relevant experts, gathering feedback, monetary support to developing POC, and as we're looking at incorporation, legal advice, and relevant help right there. Thank you. That's it from Galaxy.
Thanks a lot, Praneeth. Now the next team I would like to call is Akash Anand from Kitab. Akash, if you could take it forward.
Yeah, thanks, Ashwath. I guess my screen is visible.
Yeah, it's visible.
Yeah.
Okay, hi everyone, I'm Prajwal. I'm also from Team Kitab. So I'll just quickly introduce you to the team that's behind Kitab. So this is our team. There's 3 of us. All 3 of us are third-year undergrads at IITM. There's Akash, Gaurav, and I, and all 3 of us will talk to you a little bit about what Kitab deals with. So Kitab is in the space of digital textbooks, and I'll walk you through the problem that we're trying to solve. So the majority of students today read textbooks through PDFs, right? And this is not the ideal way to read textbooks. So to give you a very specific example of the kind of problems that you would face, let's say you have an equation or a diagram on one page, but its explanation or reference is a page or 2 later. So what you need to do to fully understand this is actually scroll back and forth between the pages. But what ends up happening is that the student finds this to be too much of an inconvenience and continues to read without doing this back and forth. So he or she only gains a very superficial understanding of the text. And things like this affect how much a student actually gets out of the textbook. And these kind of things arise from the root of the problem, which is that despite the capabilities of our laptops and iPads and all our electronic devices, PDFs offer only a marginally better or worse reading experience than the physical textbook. And a major reason for this is that conventional PDF readers are not built for students. These are one-size-fits-all softwares, and the same software that you would use to look at a bill or a fee receipt is what you use to study a textbook, which inherently has different needs. The maximum a current day software would allow you to do is maybe make highlights, add a few notes here and there. But the problem is that this interface is so clunky and disconnected with the textbook that nobody feels like doing it. And the problem doesn't end with students alone. So most textbooks are actually downloaded as pirated PDF documents from dubious illegal websites. So because of this, textbook publishers are selling less and less every year, as a result of which their prices have been constantly increasing. And this again leads to the next problem, which is that students have no incentive to actually buy textbooks because illegal PDFs offer the exact same experience as a legal ebook, but physical books are too expensive or difficult to store. Akash?
So as Prajwal mentioned, Kitab was really created with the aim of reinventing digital textbooks for students. If I were to put it in a sentence, what we aim to be is a software platform that allows students to acquire their textbooks at cheaper rates and also read them with a far more immersive and a better study experience than whatever your conventional PDF readers offer currently. Over the last few months, we at Kitab have actually been testing our custom digital textbook reader with a focus group of students from different colleges and disciplines across the country. Using our own personal experience and the feedback that we've been receiving from these customers, we have actually been regularly identifying pain points that PDF readers offer, and we've been converting those into functionality and added convenience in the form of features that we have implemented in our digital reader. We would love to demonstrate our reader, maybe at a later time that is convenient for you. Due to paucity of time, we won't go into that right now. Currently, we are actually on track to release the first version of our digital textbook reader by the end of this year, just in time for the upcoming semester that will begin in January. To bring Kitab to the market, what we plan to do is essentially first release a free PDF reader with many of the features that we have identified, which would add to the study experience. So the benefit of actually releasing a PDF reader first is that the majority of students are already currently reading their textbooks through PDFs. So this strategy allows for minimum disruption and maximum adoption by a large number of customers. One thing to keep in mind is that as we release a free PDF reader, the functionality that we offer is kind of limited due to the fact that we have no idea about the specific content that is part of each book. So in the future, what we really aim to do is to partner with publishers and get access to their content and distribute textbooks on our own platform. This allows us to really create book-specific features, and the possibilities could really be endless. For example, we could integrate interactive graphs or interactive 3D models into textbooks, convert textbooks into different languages inside the book itself. Furthermore, it even allows the possibility of students, thousands of students across the world, reading the same book to answer and ask doubts that each other may have on the platform itself. Features like this would also essentially allow authors to get better information about the problems people face while reading their books, so that they could improve upon these and incorporate these changes into future editions. Essentially, publishers today face huge losses in textbook sales, as Prajwal mentioned, and they already currently have the incentive to use a Netflix-like subscription model for selling textbooks, which is what we aim to do at Kitab. And by releasing our first reader for free and gaining a large customer base of students around the world, we hope to really convince publishers that we would be their best partner in this new venture of reinventing the way textbooks are sold and consumed across the world. Gaurav, over to you.
Yeah. So as Akash mentioned, a huge part of this involves partnering with the publishers, and we really want to get help from Nirman to set up contacts and sort of meetings with these publishers so that we could pitch our product and take our solution forward. The second thing that we want from Nirman is to do with a comprehensive marketing strategy. As we're mainly a software-based company, getting traction for a software product is really difficult, and we want Kitab to be used by as many students across the country, not just in India but also abroad, as possible. And sort of to make this dream a reality, we would need a very strong digital marketing strategy. And I think these are the two things that we would want Nirman to help us with.
Yeah, thank you. That sums up our presentation for today.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. So next we have Manish from Blue Idea. So if Manish, you could take it up. Take it.
Yes.
Manish, before you could start, I think we have one more team to present, Ashwath, and we are done, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am. There's only one more team remaining, and we will be concluding today.
Yes.
So hello, we are Blue Idea. We are developing a respiratory headwear that is primarily intended for healthcare workers. So the current alternatives are either wearing multiple layers of masks or bulky equipment. So which is obviously not.
I'm not seeing your screen very well, Manish. Screen is chopped off. You're probably sharing it from a mobile phone.
No, I'm using a laptop, but let me try sharing it again. Is it better now?
Yeah.
Okay. Also, we're developing a respiratory hardware primarily intended for healthcare workers. The current alternatives they use are either multiple layers of masks or bulky specialized equipment. This is obviously not conducive for long working hours, and they have a negative impact on their jobs. And people who also work in extreme weather conditions also need a specialized equipment in order to do their job optimally. So what we are designing is a headwear that provides filtered air and also has a climate control. It has a onboard computer which continuously monitors the user's oxygen levels and inhalation and exhalation levels, so it can maintain optimal levels of oxygen inside the environment, and it also provides comfortable working conditions. So our team includes myself, Manish, Venu, Pranika, and Sai, and Karthik, and only Yamuna and I are from IITM. I'm a year mechanical degree student, and the rest of the people have considerable industrial experience so far. And the progress we made so far is we are fabricating our initial prototype at a central workshop, which will be done in a few days, and we'll be off to testing after. And post that, we're already started working on our final design. So what we expect from Nirman is mentorship, access to institute facilities, and also funding opportunities. Hope I gave you an idea about what we do.
Thanks a lot, Manish. Now we have our final presentation for the day. Guhan from Disinfection Booth will be presenting his project.
Thank you, Ashwath. So good evening, everyone. So Ashwath, can we move to the next slide? Yeah, thank you. So basically, the disinfection booth project started during the second lockdown of our COVID pandemic season. So initially, the main objective of starting up this project was during the first phase of the lockdown, there was a huge demand for the disinfection booth among the governments. But then during in between period, they figured out it is not a feasible solution because the chemical disinfection method or the fumigation method is not a promising solution. It's always giving the false hope because the time taken for the disinfecting on the surface, it's quite high, and the people or the equipments that is getting exposed is at a very, very minimal period only, like less than 20 seconds or 15 seconds is what they expect. But then typically a chemical disinfection takes nearly 5 to 8 minutes for it to actively disinfect the surface. So with that as a key problem statement, we started figuring out what are the alternative solutions, and we came up with the two promising solutions. One is a UV and another one is ozone. Since UV has been conventionally a lot of people has been behind UV, we also wanted to check out the alternative solutions, and we found ozone to be actively good comparing to UV. One of the key benefits of using ozone is it can be generated easily anywhere, anytime, and at the same time it can also penetrate the areas which UV might have difficulties, especially the dark shaded regions or some kind of folding things. So these kind of areas UV is kind of difficult to penetrate, and at the same time when it getting exposed to humans also, we have a certain trade-off with UV. UV works best with non-living objects, comparatively to humans, as the wavelength can also cause cancer and damages to the retina, is one of the key problem why UV is not being used against the human against the humans. So that's where we came up with ozone, and with ozone we figured out an optimum concentration that will not affect the humans. At the same time, it will also be useful for disinfecting the or killing the virus on the surface level. Please to the next slide. So this is the just a brief overview of how the ozone will happen to be a potential solution comparatively to other disinfection. Ozone has been used conventionally in the wastewater treatment and the food industry for quite a long time, but to a day-to-day activity disinfectant, it was not put in use. Considering ozone can be harmful to human beings, but a right concentration and with the right exposure period can be made as a viable solution for the current pandemic situation, which led us to come up with 3 different products. So next slide, please. Yeah, so in this we have 3 basic products. One is a mini, and another one is particularly for garments, and another one is for the humans. So the mini generally works for all the halls, theaters, and even for the cars. For example, this Ola and Uber, when the passengers are going, you can always disinfect it within the next 20-15 seconds using this OZ Mini. The second one is for the garment industry, particularly after the COVID, people are not allowed to return back their garments back to the shops, as well as the trial rooms are not being used widely. So this comes into the picture wherein after the trial room, the people can just dump it inside this box, wherein it will get disinfected, and afterwards it can be put back to the shelves. This is one of the scope. And the last one would be the disinfection booth, which can be used on a large scale area like the stadiums, malls, and other places. Typically, it is used to containment the spread. That is, it will cut the spread. It is not a curable solution, but it can reduce the spread from one person to the another. That's the major objective of the disinfection booth. And yeah, so the last few, the last slide, Ashwat. The next slide, Ashwat. Yeah, so this is the overall thing is with the lockdown being released, though the pandemic has come to hopefully a new normal state, the fear among the people are still there. Like wherever they go, they always tend to have the fear, and the mode of transmission is still not very clear. So apart from the temperature checking and other things, we can also consider this one as a potential solution that can help in preventing the spread of the COVID, thereby helping the people from getting infected. So that's it, and thank you.
Thanks a lot, Guhan.
Yeah.
There is one final team remaining who couldn't join us today. Chinmay will briefly just introduce them, after which we will conclude today's induction session.
Yeah, unfortunately, Kamesh and his team couldn't attend today, but he informed me to inform you all that he and his team is working on a platform wherein teachers could record their meetings efficiently, such as only the important parts of the meetings, the images and the audio get segmented, and the total recording would be of the essential part itself. So maybe the next time when he joins us all, he might be able to explain it in detail. But right now, that's what he had told me to inform you guys. Thank you.
So thank you, Chinmay. So this concludes the presentation of all the teams. If anyone would like to, bring forward their thoughts or comments or queries, please do. Please go ahead. All right. So in that case, thank you all for attending today's induction session. I thank all the board members for taking time out of their schedules for the event, and also all the teams for staying dedicated towards their ideas and also respecting Nirman for what it stands for. So with this, I would like to conclude the session, and thank you once again, and good evening.
Thank you everyone for joining this session.
Thank you. We are very excellent team.
Thank you. Thank you, Bobby, and we look forward to your continued support.
Sure.
Thank you. Great presentations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.